Legends, stories whispered around campfires, stories passed down through generations because no one can explain what really happened. Tonight, we're diving into 4 true tales that blur the line between reality and nightmare. We'll travel to the quiet farmland of Illinois, where witnesses claimed a 3-legged creature stalked the darkness. We'll uncover the bizarre case of a children's doll that refused to stay in the trash. We'll step inside a Pennsylvania home whose walls concealed a horrifying secret rooted in centuries-old folk magic. And we'll examine a chilling criminal case from Florida where alleged demonic rituals turned terrifyingly real. Some of these stories may have logical explanations, others not so much. So lock your doors, turn down the lights, and if you hear scratching outside your window tonight, don't answer it. This is Nightland Frights, the Enfield Monster. But I came across a story recently straight out of a Halloween horror classic. Surprisingly, this didn't occur right around Halloween, as odd things usually do. The setting was rural Illinois. The date, April 25th, 1973. One of the strangest events ever chronicled in Enfield, Illinois. The night started off with a boy named Greg Garrett, who had been playing in the backyard around 9 p.m., catching fireflies and looking at the sea of stars. While attempting to catch the next firefly, his pursuits were soon cut off quickly by what is now known as the Enfield Horror. While Mr. and Mrs. Garrett had been watching TV, young Greg burst through the back door crying and acting hysterically. He began to relive what had just happened. A monster about 4 or 5 feet tall, tiny arms with claws, a slimy grey epidermis, 3 legs with accompanying claws, and big red eyes the size of flashlights attacked him. Greg's tennis shoes were torn to shreds, claiming it occurred when the monster ran past him and stepped on his feet. Mr. and Mrs. Garrett were extremely concerned as Greg was not known for making things up. They just couldn't wrap their head around what he was telling them. The exact moment this situation was going on, the Garrett's neighbor, Henry McDaniel, and his wife were returning home. They found their 2 children in an absolute panic. The children claimed the thing had tried to break into the house through the door and a window-mounted air conditioner moments earlier. As Mr. McDaniel was listening in disbelief, he heard something, an unusual scratching sound at the front door. McDaniel assumed it was a stray animal and opened the front door. It was at that moment he came face to face with the Enfield Horror. He stumbled backwards, slamming the door, grabbing a flashlight and a .22 pistol. He threw the door back open and got another glimpse of the demon. His description of the grotesque creature was identical to that of Greg Garrett, later telling police, "It had 3 legs on it, a short body, 2 little short arms coming out of its breast area, and 2 pink eyes as big as flashlights. It stood 4.5 feet tall and was greyish coloured. It was trying to get into the house." McDaniel opened fire on the monster, but while he was positive it hit the horror, the bullets did not cause any mortal damage. He stated, "It hissed like a wildcat and jumped away, covering 75 feet in approximately 3 hops, disappearing past the railroad tracks." McDaniel immediately called the local police, but the Illinois state troopers showed up on the scene instead. The troopers searched through the area, but found no sign of the Enfield Horror. They did, however, find scratch marks against the siding, which appeared to be fresh, and scarily enough, They found footprints, 3 of them, with long claw markings. 2 of the footprints were about 4 inches wide, with the third one being slightly smaller. The troopers were puzzled as nothing they had seen could have made those footprints. On May 6th, McDaniel was startled awake in the dead of the night by the howling of some neighborhood dogs. He pulled himself out of bed, grabbed the gun, and yanked open the front door. Upon opening, he said he got a better look at the monster from some distance, negotiating the trestles of the railroad tracks. This time, it wasn't in a hurry. It just moved down the tracks. In the days following the odd story, McDaniel felt compelled to tell everyone he could about what he had seen. Before long, droves of monster hunters arrived. Floods of news trucks, scientists, and curiosity seekers descended onto the town. At one point, the town is becoming such a circus of media frenzy and tourists. The White County sheriff threatened to arrest McDaniel if he didn't stop talking about his experience. At least 5 hunters were arrested and charged after being a threat to public safety, after opening fire on a hairy grey thing. The judge claimed they were simply out to raise hell. One man, Rick Rainbow, who was a news director for WWK1 in Kokomo, Indiana, claimed to have seen the Enfield horror as well. He and 3 other men witnessed the horror around an abandoned house. Not much further from the McDaniel house, Rainbow could not get a clear description of the monster because it was in shadows and had its back towards the men. He did describe it as being grey, 5 feet tall, and stooped over. Rainbow did manage to record the ungodly screams of the Enfield horror, but that recording was not released to the general public. Those cries were heard by others over the next several days, near the railroad tracks close to the McDaniels' house. After that night, the creature jumped over the tracks, this time for good. Just as quickly as the monster arrived, it disappeared, never to be discovered again. In 1978, a case study was opened by a group of researchers who tried to make sense of the situation. The researchers found that no more than 3 first-hand witnesses claimed they saw the actual monster. But since then, their stories have been exaggerated by local news stories and local gossip. It became a bizarre game of telephone where each additional story snowballed into something bigger and more animated. Now, if all these reports are real, why did nobody take any photos of the evidence? The aluminum siding scratches, the footprints, the torn up tennis shoes, or attempt to get any sort of real proof from the monster? Could this be considered a crime scene? Some people who think it was an elaborate hoax to bring tourists into the town could not explain how 2 separate neighbors told the police the same description without conversing with each other first. The marks on the ground also didn't suggest foul play. While the case remains largely forgotten today, it still is one of the most curious cases and makes you wonder what really took place down in Enfield. It has not been reported on for almost 40 years. But that's not to say it isn't still out there waiting to terrorize another town. Haunted Doll. On Christmas of 2013, a Houston area girl was gifted an Elsa doll and all was well, until it wasn't. The doll recited phrases from the movie Frozen and sang Let It Go when a button on its necklace was pressed. For 2 years it did that in English, Mother Emily Madonia said. In 2015, it started doing it alternating between Spanish and English. There wasn't a button that changed these, it was just random. The family has owned the doll for more than 6 years and never changed its batteries. The mother says the doll would randomly begin to speak and sing even with its switch turned off. In December 2019, the family decided to get rid of the doll. However, Elsa wasn't going to let this family go. Despite throwing it out in the trash, the family found the doll inside of a bench in their living room. Weeks later, the kids insisted they didn't put it there, and I believed them because they wouldn't have dug through the garbage outside, Madonia said. Elsa completely stopped operating in English and began to only speak and sing in Spanish. Once again, the family attempted to throw out the Elsa doll. Madonia's husband double-bagged the doll and placed it at the bottom of the garbage can to be taken away on trash day. The family travelled and forgot about it. But when they returned, their daughter found her old friend outside of their house. Okay guys, seriously, we need help. To recap for those of you who have not been following our Elsa doll saga, Matt threw it away weeks ago, and then we found it inside a wooden bench. Madonia wrote on Facebook, "Okay. So, we were weirded out and tightly wrapped it in its own garbage bag and put that garbage bag inside another garbage bag filled with other garbage and put it in the bottom of our garbage can underneath a bunch of other bags of garbage and wheeled it to the curb. And it was collected on garbage day." Great, right? We went out of town, forgot about it. Today, Aurelia says, "Mom, I saw the Elsa doll again in the backyard. Help us get rid of this haunted doll." When asked if she believed a prank was being pulled, Madonia said, "The doll has some marker on her from my daughter colouring over the years. So, I know the doll that reappeared was the original and not a replacement." Most logical thinkers believe it's a prank, but I don't understand how or when it was done, especially because the garbage truck had taken it away. The family has made a final attempt to get rid of their daughter's old toy. But this time Elsa isn't going into the unknown. The doll was mailed without a return address to a family friend in Minnesota. If the doll comes back, I might have to open my mind to some of the more supernatural solutions, Madonia said. Luckily for Madonia, the doll was received by her Minnesotan friend Chris Hogan, who shared a final update on his Facebook. And now for the rest of the story. She made it to Minnesota and is taped to the brush guard of my Jeep. If anything weird happens, I'm welding her into a steel pipe and sinking it in the lake of the woods. Hogan wrote, "Dead animals in the walls." When the Bretsuis family decided to insulate their home in Auburn, Pennsylvania, in 2015, they discovered that it had already been, with scores of dead animal carcasses. The expert attributed the rotting animals in their walls to powwow, or Dutch magic, a ritual originating in the culture of the Pennsylvania Dutch to treat ailments and gain physical and spiritual protection. The Pennsylvania Dutch were a group of German-speaking settlers to Pennsylvania in the 1600s and 1700s, and are often of Lutheran, Mennonite, or Amish faiths. The Washington Post notes on the magic, "Many of the spells deal with the care of livestock, finding water, or the treatment of minor ailments, reflecting the conditions and concerns of early American settlers. But powwow also has within it a tradition of darker spells, and even of such things as conjuring demons. One notable ritual in their tradition is this hex to create loyalty in a dog, to attach a dog to a person, provided nothing else was used before to effect it. Try to draw some of your blood and let the dog eat it along with his food, and he will stay with you. The mold found on the rotting carcasses in the Bretzus home has caused illness among the family members, and they say that the odor hasn't gone away. Florida devil worshipping. Friends noticed that Danielle Hawkins, a 35-year-old schoolteacher near St. Petersburg, Florida, started acting strangely in June of 2012, developing an interest in demonic rituals. Soon after, she was arrested for abuse of 7 of her former students, as the Tampa Bay Times reported. Danielle Hawkins told the kids they needed to rid their bodies of demons. As the group gathered before dusk Saturday, around a small fire near the St. Petersburg pier, they should cut their skin to let the evil spirits out, police said she told the children. Then, they needed to burn the wounds to ensure that those spirits would not return. When Hawkins held a lighter to one teen's hand, wind blew the flame out, police said. That prompted her to douse his hand in perfume before setting it on fire. The boy suffered second-degree burns, police said. Another teen was cut on the neck with a broken bottle, police said. Hawkins used a flame to heat a small key, which she then used to cauterize the wound. The police were notified because a friend of one of the students who participated in the ritual raised alarms. However, none of the students themselves told their parents about the event or would comment. Following the arrest of Hawkins for aggravated battery and child abuse, NBC reported. Investigators said they've spoken to Hawkins, but she didn't spell out what type of religion would require such drastic measures. She hasn't informed us exactly what she was trying to accomplish with this, tweets of the St. Petersburg Police Department. Tonight we explore 4 cases that remind us the unknown wears many different faces. A creature that seemingly vanished into the Illinois night. A doll that refused to be discarded. Ancient rituals that may have left something terrible hidden inside the walls of a family home. And a disturbing real-life case where belief, obsession, and violence collided. Whether these stories are examples of misunderstood events, elaborate coincidences, folklore grown larger with time, or something genuinely supernatural, they all leave us with one unsettling question. What if even part of them is true? If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and share Nightland Frights with someone who loves mysteries, paranormal encounters, and the unexplained. You can also support the show and unlock exclusive bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and early access by joining our Patreon. Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and remember, some legends never die. They're just waiting for someone to find them again.